Hello, I'm Les Miller. Just making a short, quick video. Not a lot of editing this time. No pictures, no words on screen. I'll just leave you to look up the references on your own afterwards. What I'm basically doing is, well, the Lord gave me a wonderful gift recently. My mother bought me a camera. And trying to keep up with everybody as technology grows and changes, of course. So I'm just doing some testing. I thought I'd make a short, quick video with a simple message that actually is one that is a bit of a burden on my heart that I hope will be really helpful to you. This is Ellen White's failed Civil War prophecy, a second look. Now, I've been an Adventist since 1988, as I've mentioned in my testimony videos. It was actually about 8 years that I stayed in the church without being exposed to anything in the way of anti-Adventist stuff. Finally, it was the first time working, volunteering, speaking at an evangelistic series. And a lady came up. She was an evangelical. She had an anti-cult ministry. And she comes in the first night, says, "I'm here to check you guys out." Night number 2, we have a wonderful conversation. She brings up the topic of Ellen White. I explain a few things to her. And then she comes back about 10 nights later. Of course, after that, a nice, carefully worded letter. She says, "No, I don't want to do this." Hands me out an anti-Ellen White pamphlet. I read it. And of course, I am well grounded in my faith. I have seen hundreds of Bible verses that plainly and clearly show all the different teachings of the Bible that are true, such as the truth about death, the true Sabbath, and how the interpretation of prophecy based on historicism that we share with very few other churches is the correct view. And after that, it kind of piqued my interest a little. So I thought what I'd do, just here and there, when I'd go in a Christian bookstore, I'd go over to the cult section. I'd pick up anything and see if there was an anti-Ellen White reference in it. And of course, once in a while I come across something, not every time, which is nice. But just taking a quick read in the store, didn't buy the books, just flipping through the pages, what I found was the same kind of animosity, shall we say, if you want to be a little crude, or maybe not crude, but more blunt. It's really that same kind of childish attitude that atheists have toward Christianity in general. It's, I didn't get what I want, therefore I refuse to give. And you'll see this. A lot of those things are disgruntled former members, right? One time I'm looking at a book and the guy was saying, well, the Adventist church is a cult because when I was growing up Adventist, I had to have my bath over by sundown on Friday, right? Sundown Friday. Okay, fine. That proves God didn't give Ellen White 2,000 visions and dreams. It's just like an atheist saying, I dug a hole in the ground, I found a clay pot, and it proves that God didn't flood the earth. Those who look to the human side of the Seventh-day Adventist Church will find the same kind of human flaws that anybody will find when they look at the human side of any Christian. The issue is the message. That's where faith can be truly found. But one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people aren't open to the idea of prophets at all, not only all the false prophets, but the concept that for 2,000 years we haven't had any prophets at all. But you know the reason why for that? That's what I shared with that lady that night, and what really shook her. I could see she was visibly, fully enlightened. I gave her Lamentations 2:9, last part. The law is no more, and her prophets find no vision from the Lord. It was when they changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday that the gift of prophecy was removed from the earth. And as God was working in such a big way to bring the Sabbath back, as Revelation 10:11 says, And he said to me, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings. In other words, prophecy was going to come back. And that did, not just through Ellen White, through William Ellis Foy, through Hazen Foss, though he said no, and also, if you know the story, through an Inuit man living up in the far north, either Alaska or the Northwest Territories of Canada, I'm not sure. His name was Manilak, and he lived somewhere around the same time. I know very little about his story. Of course, when we're talking about prophecy, we normally like to go with Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord God does nothing unless he reveals his secret to his servants, the prophets. But I like a few other verses because I found a few that comment on the fact that when God declares a prophecy, he spends time over the centuries working to make that prophecy come true. And that just fascinates me. Isaiah 45:19. I have not spoken in secret in a dark place of the earth. I did not say to the seed of Jacob, seek me in vain. I, the Lord, speak righteousness. I declare things that are right. Isaiah 14:26 and 27. This is the purpose that I purposed against the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out over all the nations. For the Lord of hosts has purposed, and who will annul it? His hand is stretched out, and who will turn it back? On some of the questions here about the concept of Ellen White being a prophet or not, there's some great books. I know the Ellen White websites have excellent resources as well, but I'm an old-fashioned reader. When I really want to read something, I get into a book. I don't just sit and on a screen for hours and hours and hours on an iPad or something. So somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, I read Seventh-day Adventists Answer, get it in the light, Questions on Doctrine. I know there's a lot of people who have serious issues with this book, and I see their point. But I've heard people also say, well, here's where the book is right and here's where the book is wrong. So just dwelling on the right part for now, not getting into an argument with anybody. On pages 89 to 93, if you've got a copy, they make some fascinating references on how we test Ellen White by the Bible and not the other way around. And also they compare her to a lot of other prophets mentioned in the Bible whose writings just didn't get into the Bible, like Nathan, like Philip's daughters. Their prophecies were for basically that time period only, those people only. And that's what Ellen White's writings really are all about. Now another one, if you can get it as well, more recent, Judd Lake's Ellen White Under Fire, pages 149 to 178. He goes into great detail and he basically calls her a non-canonical prophet, which is basically saying the same thing. She's fully inspired. We just don't hold her up to the same place as the Bible. On page 341, I've got it on my laptop here, he says the actual number of pages of sayings that the critics challenge is 0.1% of her writings. In other words, God gave the evangelical churches, the ones that, like us, still believe in the sole authority of the Bible and in the born-again message, 99.99% proof that Ellen White is a prophet. And hopefully, of course, some of them, when they see where the Bible verses are that we do get what we teach, will join with us at the end of time. Did you know Ellen White herself actually predicted all the anti-Ellen White stuff out there? Page 607, paragraph 1 of The Great Controversy. I'll read it. As the controversy extends into new fields, and the minds of the people are called to God's downtrodden law, Satan is astir. The power attending the message will only madden those who oppose it. The clergy will put forth almost superhuman efforts to shut away the light lest it should shine upon their flocks. Superhuman. Computers, websites, YouTube videos. That's why I'm here, trying to counter the counterfeit, trying to do it by preaching the truth, trying to share in a positive and happy way the peace of mind that being an Adventist has given me, and the joy I have and the hope I have of seeing Jesus face to face at the end of time. I'll give you Acts chapter 4, verses 27 and 28 as well. This is Peter. He's praying after he has been threatened by the Pharisees. He's praying to God. He says, "For truly against your holy servant Jesus, whom you anointed, both Herod and Pontius Pilate, with the Gentiles and the people of Israel, were gathered together to do whatever your hand and your purpose determined before to be done." Now, this doesn't teach once saved, always saved. What it does is shows when God makes a prophecy, people have a choice of how to react to that prophecy. Those who accept His truth will be on His side, and He will keep working in their lives to lead them down a path that will end in the glorious result of heaven. But those who reject it are putting themselves on dangerous ground. And the path they're on, if they will continue, is a path that will end up leading over the edge into eternal death. And that will be shown in this life. And the way God works history out in this life will show it right here before any death and resurrection happens. They will play a part in making His prophecy come true, but they'll play it on the negative side, not the positive side. Yet we have one prophecy that those who are against Ellen White like to dwell on, and that's the concept of America being at war in the Civil War and the United Kingdom seriously considering invading. Here's Testimonies, Volume 1, page 258. "I was shown that if the object of this war had been to exterminate slavery, then, if desired, England would have helped the North. But England fully understands the feelings in the government, and that the war is not to do away slavery, but merely to preserve the Union, and it is not for her interest to have it preserved." Page 259. "England is studying whether it is best to take advantage of the present weak condition of our nation and venture to make war upon her. If England thinks it will pay, she will not hesitate a moment to improve her opportunities, to exercise her power, and humble our nation. When England does declare war, all nations will have an interest of their own to serve, and there will be general war, general confusion." Now, what is the standard response that's given when people submit this as proof that Ellen White has failed, therefore is not 100% accurate, therefore violates the Bible teaching that a prophet has to be 100% accurate? Well, of course, what it is, conditional prophecy. Often you'll see the story of Jonah referred to. Now, what I'm going to do here is read you just a little bit from Seth J. Pierce's book, What We Believe, Ellen White for Teens. I didn't type it up yet into my laptop, so I'll just read directly from the book. It's page 204. "In the English language, in all languages for that matter, there are conditional statements. They go like this: if you punch me in the face, I will kick you in the head. Have I kicked you in the head? No. That's because you haven't punched me in the face. Now, let's take a closer look at what Ellen White says in that statement about fighting it up with Britain for the second time. I count at least two ifs and one hoping before Ellen says when. I guess Britain decided it wasn't worth it. No harm done to Ellen or the United States. And that's on 205. I fully agree with, I fully understand, and support this idea. But I'm titling this message on SDAvideos.com, Ellen White's Failed Civil War Prophecy, a Second Look. Let's go back over those words again. She does say if England thinks it will pay, and then she says when England does declare war. Notice that. She doesn't say when England does declare war on the United States. She says when England does declare war. In other words, when England does declare war, anytime, anywhere, on anybody. What are the accepted dates for the beginnings of both World Wars I and II? July 28th, 1914, September 1st, 1939. England did declare war, and there was general war and general confusion. The prophecy came true.